Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Trekyards. He is obviously Commander Cockings. Look at those pips.
You saw the episode, don't pretend. If you didn't, stop, please. Spoilers, please, stop. But I'm Commander Cockins, he's Captain Foley. Oh my god, hi, Stuart. So episode 9, Stuart. The
Lux.
conclusion of the answers of the questions, the resurrection of the answers to our hearts, and lead into the final part of this possibly forever TNG escapade. You just watched it. You've avoided spoilers somehow. The internet is absolutely ablaze.
Super happy about a lot of things, called a lot of things. Also was wrong about a lot of things. But very happy with the way it was put together. As I said, I wasn't stoked on the idea of it being the Borg, but it makes perfect sense. They did it very well, I think, story-wise and structure-wise. And looking back, you can see all the little things indicating what's going on, including the transporters. It's actually a kind of a brilliant story layout. I was kind of disappointed with the Borg thing, but then as it went on, they continued to just wow me about it. So I think they did a really good job with that. So other than that, I mean, there's some surprises for sure. It hits you in the feels, and things seem to be lit almost properly. There's a little bit of cinematicness going on the bridge still, but yeah, that was fantastic to see that reveal and to see that come out of Hangar Bay 12. If we called it, we knew it.
It's 3 segments of very distinct things.
Yes. But I mean, some good reactions, some good comedy, some good one-liners from everybody. And yeah, some definite stakes going on. Yeah, Admiral Shelby on the Enterprise F, didn't expect that, but I thought, wow, that's ironic. And then as soon as I thought that, Picard comes out and says it. So it's like, well, we should have seen that one coming.
They meta joked everyone. They meta pranked you.
And all I have to say is, damn kids. Kids ruin everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my...
a lot of murder happening in episode 9.
Yeah, including... and looking forward to next week. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. How about you, Commander? What did you think?
Well, it obviously wearing this gives you a vibe, but it's, apparently it takes one person in a generation to do something like this for the fans, because you can be wonderful and write the Enterprise D bridge in an animated show, and you build 3D modeling, light it, and it is what it is, and Walkie, etc., or the TOS bridge, and Walkie, Prodigy, or Lower Decks, where you can bring back George Takei, etc. These are amazing, right? Of course, but they often are just getting one guy in a booth or some guy modeling. To actually build a full-size 360, and we've seen behind-the-scenes pictures, there's no digital extension, a full 360 bridge, the hero bridge of the hero show that was the standout show of all of Trek. You wonder where the budget went for the season. A second bridge. That takes an enormous commitment for a show we know whose budget got cut. That thing is going to be a significant percentage of the entire season budget, is that one set.
So we can excuse all of the same corridor budget-saving episodes.
You know what I mean? Like, it's worth it because even the old shows, if they brought back part of the set, it was what can we get away with, and that's fine. So it took someone this crazy, Tony Towers, to say we're going to build the entire thing, do it justice, build it fully, give these legends the true send-off that it takes an entire season budget to give. And that it took a crazy man. Well done, and obviously the exterior you can just build in a computer over weeks, but a physical set is different, etc. So that, first of all, it is astounding because we didn't know how much was going to get built. We knew some, but it could have been just the back wall, so full 360 was not what we were expecting fully. Episode wise, it's an odd one because it really is 3 segments. It's the Hello Jack, it's the Borg reveal and Borg repercussions, and then there's the Enterprise D love letter. It's entirely 3 segments, right? Which make it feel structurally quite different to the rest of the season, which have been quite flowing and less focused. But the focus allows each part to be meaningful, because the Borg thing, yes, you can see the tiniest of hints, but it's also super out of left field. Like, tendrils of red are not Borg. That's not a visual that connects the Borg at all. If they were green, fine. If there was flashing strobes, fine. That is not a Borg visual, so that's an A472 visual.
But that was a subversion of our expectations.
Absolutely.
And
Well, it hides the twist.
It was a red herring, and they explained it with the neurons stretching out. So.
But then you are allowed to not think Borg if the visuals aren't suggesting Borg. And they've incorporated Borg references throughout the Best of Both Worlds clip, the mentioning Locutus, but those were narratively in the moment important, so they could be forgiven as fan servicey character moments. They weren't set up to a big Borg story. They haven't mentioned the Borg once as a what they're doing now. They haven't mentioned the Queens. There's been almost no big setup, so it becomes off as a twist. So it's really almost random in the way it's presented. Like, by the way, it's the season 2 villains again, but not, but yes. Who are also in season 1, but yes, but not. But at the same time, they then commit to like 20 minutes of who and what and why, and you appreciate that the plan was fully thought out. They just wanted to give you tiny breadcrumbs for 8 episodes and then dump everything that makes sense in 9. And it's very logical. But I wish there'd been more genuine clues, more genuine build-ups previously that were more like... But then again, it's a nice surprise. So it's an interesting mixed bag of mystery box, you know.
Well, it's one of those things on rewatch you're going to notice, and everything just is going to lead to the Borg. And a lot of people have thrown that together and, you know, come up and compiled the clues.
But it's different when you know they are Borg references versus... Because we guessed for 8 weeks, and I definitely didn't think Borg. Despite all the hints and all the evidence, I was voting against it. Because I also didn't think he would just redo the Borg again. But obviously, he wasn't the showrunner of season 1, so those aren't his Borg. He wasn't showrunner of season 2 in the end of the day. Those weren't his Borg either. So... He's doing the real Borg, and certainly the sets were better, the costume was better. Like, they felt like real Borg for the first time in 3 years. No offense to other teams, but also, you know, like as soon as Jack beams him, like, it's a cube. I didn't think, the hell is this? Jack, see what happens. The fleet thing was very impressive. Although, boy, if they actually destroy Space Dock, I'm going to riot.
I think they will.
Because that's damn pretty. Don't be destroying it.
We have one ship against an armada, but I think the Enterprise D is going to go to the Borg cube and solve the problem from Jack's end, which is much more, I think, believable than, you know, them taking on the fleet. So. Oh
yeah, it's definitely, it's recreating Best of Both Worlds again in a nebula, like the Mutara Nebula they reused for the other one. That's what you want to see. You want to see, as in like Terry, you want to see recreating that climactic moment of TNG history, Trek history, but with a fresh new vein. You don't need to see a giant space battle, which you know they can't win. Yeah, for sure. This is why it's sort of window dressing how many ships, but at least they're different classes, so it kind of feels appropriate. And then, of course, you have Enterprise D stuff, which slightly is too happy considering the apocalypse nature of what just occurred. Like I said, you know, every child murdered adults. I mean, thousands of people are dead in those few seconds. It wasn't assimilation. They were saying, you know, kill all those who weren't assimilated, and only people on 25. I mean, that's most of the ships are over 25, you'd think. I know you have a lot of ensigns, but you'd think you'd have more senior officers than ensigns. In overall, it'd be weird to say you have, you know, 300 young people, or, you know, 600 young people and 400 old people.
You only need a few, though. Like the Excelsior was a perfect point. Like we took the bridge, yay! And then all the other ships that are controlled target it. And you got to think, you've got your cadets, your ensigns at the stations, like helm, tactical. That's where they are. The senior staff are sitting in the captain's chairs or the command chairs, giving the orders. So the people we saw it on the Titan, the helm and all that, they're the ones that are infected. They're the ones that can take over. Just don't have weapons near them, and you're fine. I don't know.
Well, on some ships, you know, Voyager had a bridge crew that weren't ensigns except Kim. Enterprise D had 2 ensigns on the bridge. I mean, it's different ships, different eras. I mean, you wouldn't have the youngest people, least experience, running the bridge stations most of the time.
But you would. That's how they get their experience, especially on Frontier Day, where you're just doing formation and stuff.
That one's true. And obviously, you could order. I'm assuming there'd be an order. You know, let's put the ensigns to enjoy the ride. You know, this is from the top of Starfleet, so they can make it whatever you want.
You got to think. I think a lot of the upper crust, like the command staff and all the uppity ups, are probably going to be on space dock, enjoying the festivities, having some champagne, hanging out with each other, while the fleet
space
does
caviar.
The fleet does its like formation flying, which is all just ensigns and stuff,
and automated as well.
Yeah. So if Starfleet, if Stardust or space dock gets destroyed with because who knows who's on there, honestly, because that's exactly how those kind of celebrations go. You know, the top brass are up there with the champagne, watching the festivities, chatting amongst themselves. So,
But yeah, definitely gruesome, and it's worse than you think it is, vibe-wise. But obviously, most ensigns are, I mean, most people aren't armed by default, so most people are going to be hand-to-hand combating. It's only the Titan, I guess. I mean, we only saw the Titan, and they were a skeleton crew who was ever left, who that day fought Vadic's people. So they've all got phasers still. So most, Voyager they weren't armed. They were all in armory. It was all the armory. So most people are just punching each other and strangling, and you might be able to fight that. And then you got a 45-year-old has more experience than a 20-year-old in terms of hand-to-hand combat, probably going to win. So it's not, it's not quite as vicious as we saw, even though it could be. But also, these Borg drones, the assimilation is such a broad topic. They're basically controlled zombies because they've not gained the strength, the abilities, the technological advancements of a drone. They're just being mind controlled. So it's a very, very minor league drone, but that's good.
There's something else physical going on because of their appearance, but I'm not sure what that entails.
But it's not nanoprobes, so I think that's more a visual cue of, look.
Well, the transporter could have been messing with their adrenal glands, so the adrenaline is pumped up right now, so they are
that's
strong.
True.
I don't know. I like the transporter thing spreading, like assimilating the fleet over time. That's really brilliant, actually.
It's kind of a horror thing as well. It's the most wonderful slow play. Borg's normal plan is let's send one cube, kill everybody, and then assimilate everybody. Always fails. Versus let's add some code to a computer. We did it. We did it. It's great. But also with the genius limitation of under 25, I was so worried it'd be everybody be like, that's OP. But under 25 is not most of the fleet. That's just the young people. And although I guess you could argue if it was set up, say, 5 years ago, then once you've already got it in your brain, it'll continue past 25. So you could, obviously, it could be anybody under 30 or under 35.
I think that's the implication, yeah.
We won't know until we ask Terry.
Yeah, I'm kind of upset, by the way, that they killed Shaw. I've been calling that they're not going to kill him. He might not be dead, but there's very heavily implied that he was dead. The fact that Seven and Raffi stuck around on the Titan, who knows? They could come in and save the day, and Shaw could be alive. We thought he was dead like twice now. He got beat up in the turbo lift, and the first time when he got taken down to sickbay with internal bleeding. So who knows?
Well, that's his first death, on-screen death. But you can certainly imagine the actor, presuming that is the end of the character, doing interviews and everyone saying, the fans want a Captain Shaw show. What do you think? He's like, I'm there if you ask me. And then in his brain, and also revive me.
Yeah, exactly.
Or in the past.
That's what I thought, yeah.
I mean, it's definitely also, and let's be honest, the point of this season is to get the crew of the TNG cast onto Enterprise D. Sure, Seven, Raffi would all be wasted characters in the situation. You don't want to see Raffi in science being talked to, and that could be a LaForge line or a data line. So getting them off to that's the entire reason. Getting them out of the situation so they can be either non-existent in episode 10 or just doing a minor thing in the main fleet situation, which is what you want. What do you really want? Shaw on the D bridge? It's cool for him as an actor, but it's going to remove. It's going to do because then seeing the shot of them all on the bridge, you only realize, oh wow, this is the family. It only really gets you right at the end because it's been this frantic moment. It's like boom, this is actually 30 years in the making.
I got to give a shout out to the Enterprise E reference. Yeah, we can't take the E. That was not my fault. And then later he's like, I prefer the weapon station on the Enterprise.
Keep saying it. Yeah.
That was great. Like, he's not so much into nostalgia as everybody else. I like that.
Yeah. E was a significant battle upgrade, and that's what he's doing right now. I mean, yeah, you're looking back and saying this is also 30-year-old phases versus relatively new, relatively powerful. Very characterful. Very, very characterful.
When the fleet started doing its thing, right? And you heard the Excelsior go down.
Yeah. By the Intrepid. So we know that goes, guys.
I immediately had flashbacks to Prodigy. And I don't know if this takes any of the wind out of the sails of this episode. I mean, a lot of people might not have seen Prodigy because it's a kid's show or whatever. But it's the same type of deal where the fleet is, spoilers, I guess, where the fleet is like interlinked and actually controlled by an alien construct and starts annihilating the rest of the fleet. Like it's Starfleet against Starfleet, and there's a lot of death and destruction that happens. I've heard Walt Key and them say on Twitter that they all talk to each other, they all know what's going on. It seems like the same story, though. I don't know if you got that feeling.
The thing is, season 1 of Prodigy was in development long before... Like, it was in development before season 1 of Picard was released. So they had their 40-episode arc planned.
That's true.
So, I mean, it's the Picard team that didn't keep up to date with the Prodigy team twice. You know, the Borg stuff not linking to Prodigy's Borg, and that isn't from season two's Borg, which is, you know, so it was Picard team that would have known the idea already happened, and then the happenstance of the episodes being literally weeks apart. It is very, very similar. I think certainly all those two Destruction of the World with Volcano films. It's like two independent things had to set up money, time, effort, years.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what?
Like Armageddon and Deep Impact, yeah.
That's what I'm referring to, yeah. So it's definitely weird, and I think they're extremely similar, even to the point of, you know, the Borg cube using red tendrils and the construct was red. With the irony, double irony being, of course, is that the device which that sent out the signal, the spinning circles, is almost identical to the spinning circles of the vinculum interior from Prodigy. So that's almost the same visual. I'm guessing they must have said, "Hey, Prodigy, you guys did this. Let's nick that," because that's almost identical, and it's almost the same visual idea. I mean, I think they're different enough that thematically, you know, one is a massacre of ships, one is a massacre of Earth, because I'm assuming the fleet is just going to bomb Earth.
Yeah, like, they take down the defenses, yeah.
So it's you know, one is a full takeover, and of people, not ships. But yeah, they are kind of absurdly similar. Although I would kind of like to see, it sounds disgustingly harsh, but I kind of want to see all the ships like fire nanoprobe torpedoes into Earth's orbit and just assimilate Earth. Because you'd think assimilation is the key versus destruction. Although you could also argue that Queen's thinking, we've done this, we've tried this, let's just kill them all. They'll win. You know, assimilation, there's a way that, you know, have you seen Seven? Have you seen Picard? Have you seen Janeway? We've assimilated them all. Doesn't stick. You know, so I can see them saying bomb, bomb, bomb. So what do you think? The Borg Queen was back, and Alice Krieg reprising with the back of her knocked head.
I thought it sounded like Alice Krieg, and I was wondering if it was the one that recently passed away from Picard season 2. But yeah, that was a great reveal actually. That Beverly's voice basically turned into the Borg Queen's voice, because that was like a red herring all along too, because the subtitles said Beverly's voice, and they even mentioned it in dialogue. You know, it sounded like my mother or whatever. I thought it was nice. The interior looks a little like it's not. You see in the background, you see the odd like
Borg.
Yeah, Borg in their alcove, but it's not like the hallways of Borg that we saw in TNG. Even it's more ramshackled.
There's one corridor that beams in, but then they go to this big giant room.
Yeah. I know that was nice. It was nice to see. I mean, know that they're kind of hobbled at this point, as it's mentioned in Prodigy as well, from Janeway. So yeah, it's been interesting to see that this is. I wonder if they're going to get a mention of the season 2 situation with Girardi, but probably not.
Yeah, I was crossing my fingers and toes to see the reverse shot and see Alice Krieg in sort of CG makeup if she can't. You know, she's got on a bit. I saw her last year, and while lovely, she's not as young as she used to be. But I mean, the voice was phenomenal. I mean, it's amazing how seductively creepy she is. That no one else has managed to do that, right? In that specific way, that was really nice. But I was definitely wanting to see her face, because then you could relate to the character more. It was far more of a Emperor Palpatine vibe, where they're attached to this giant mechanism to keep them alive. So they're not really an active force so much as they're there, but barely. And so I was thinking, well, okay, it'll cost her $50,000, $80,000, $90,000 to get a new uniform, a new costume in for Alice, put her in makeup, shoot it. Or person in leftover pieces from Annie's costume for season 2, doesn't matter, we're just going to show the back, and voiceover. $2,000. It's like, well, I'd rather take the 80 grand and put it onto the D bridge, right? So I saw the logic there. Unless it's a huge payoff, I get the reason. But then how much can there be really in the story? You know, if we don't, you know, say Picard beams into this new Borg cube and we only see the back of the Queen's head, that's not a satisfying payoff for this finally coming together again, finally.
No, I totally agree with that. You can't pull this off without showing her, I don't think so. Yeah, I was just about to say that as you said that. So,
but I guess in theory, this season, now we know it's the Borg, which is, again, somewhat random, somewhat deliberate feeling. I guess it's the final nail of, let's actually address in a more faithful way the final knot in his brain of, I want to kill that Queen. or deal with it, or even, let her live at the end, or see what happens. It feels like Picard not beaming aboard and not having a conversation with the Queen feels like the obvious, well, that was the conclusion of the favourite movie. This is the favourite movie sequel. Maybe he won't strangle her and fight her in with gaseous tubes this time because he's a little bit older, but
hopefully,
something different, yeah.
And I really love the explanation of Elton Soong transferring Picard to the Golem body, of discovering the problem with the aromatic syndrome, and then that's why the body was at Daystrom. I thought that was so well crafted, and it explains him still hearing the voices in First Contact.
Yes, that was a chef's kiss of closing canon loop.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And then the fact that it passed over to Jack as a genetic thing, is absolutely brilliant. So top marks for that story idea, Terry. That is amazing.
I'd say 99%, just because I look at the TNG Borg as we saw in Best of Both Worlds, and they're not really very biotechy compared to Voyager Borg. They don't even have assimilation tubules, and Aaron Waltke said that's a later canon tech, because how he wrote those episodes. So future Borg from Voyager, I could see it, but the analog feeling Borg of TNG, I don't know if they would think to put an organic assimilation gene in him. You know what I mean? There's a slight disconnect there.
It could have been a side effect, honestly, of just the assimilation process and the way they use Locutus.
I felt like it was intentional. Like, he's special. Let's give him a special thing.
I think so too, but I'm just trying to play devil's advocate and say that maybe it was an unintentional side effect, and they're like, oh, we can use this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the caveat to what I just said there is that they've retconned the Queen, who obviously looks very more advanced, and obviously is a multi-part body assembly unit. There's a lot of organic tech there. The Borg cube we saw in TNG, those cubes are the old cubes. They had plenty of new cubes. It seems odd they would design and build new cubes in the 3 years. They could, obviously, but it makes more sense they're just older cubes that happen to be sent. I mean, who cares, right? Oh, an 800-year-old cube, that's fine to kill Starfleet. Yeah, it's fine. Versus, no, they can take it. We'll have to send a 30-year-old cube. So that is fine. Just slight disconnect of Best of Both Worlds. I kind of, just from the tech improved over time. That's not a huge deal. But yeah, to retcon out aromatic syndrome is hard, changes all good things. And it makes assimilation fatal, which is a nice little caveat to, he wasn't meant to live that long. He was meant to assimilate and do his thing, and that's kind of fun.
And the irony being, he was lamenting about not having a family, discovered he had a family, and if he wouldn't have, this wouldn't have ever happened. In generations, he's like, I have no name to pass on the family name to, and so anyway.
But if he had more, and they all had this genetic defect or addition, all of the kids in Starfleet do now, so it doesn't matter. Everyone's got it. It's now everyone's got Borg coding in their DNA, which I don't see them being able to remove. I mean, they're so different from Picard, or at least they.
That opens up a whole live discussion about how they're going to solve this problem, which I have some ideas, but.
But no, that was a hell of a fun retcon, and adds a lot more credence to just why he just died all of a sudden in the first season. It's because his Borg DNA was breaking down, or even maybe when he went back into the Borg cube in season 1, he was being affected by it, maybe PTSD of reliving it. What you saw, maybe that triggered.
Fired it back up.
So there's a lot that really, really helped season 1, I think, is in that storyline. And then obviously they found Enterprise D, which was great. George's been doing it for 20 years, we said before, and even obviously in my recent doc, we show that Viridian is at last place, and we've said for years it's going to get recovered because if someone finds it in 50 years, it's going to kind of screw up Prime Directive. So that was all well thought out. Beauty shots were lovely, the bridge was lovely, the tone was lovely, it was funny. It certainly gives me a certain expectation of next week that I need to see them on that bridge for 20 of the 40 minutes. Or 30 of the 50. Because if you've set up this much time, they can't just be there for some. It has to be the entire episode until the end. Or even end on the bridge. You know what I mean? It kind of gives me that expectation of that's the whole rest of the season, is them on the bridge, doing their thing. And lots of space shots of the D, phaser fights and warp shots. And because they can't warp at the Titan warp. It's got to be a classic warp. Because it's not, everything's old. So it creates expectations for next week. Which I hope they'll raise to. They aren't even unrealistic. They're just, you've set a bar here. You need to now you need to go to this bar.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to see a lot of the bridge, maybe even the ready room. That'd be kind of neat if he has a conversation in the ready room as well. I don't know if they necessarily go that far and build that set as well, but.
I could see him just saying, F it, would just talk on the bridge itself, because it's a good enough set to talk on the bridge.
Good enough. Stand great, yeah.
But no, I definitely got the feels, and despite knowing a good chunk of thematically what was going to come, I definitely started tearing up at places. Because, it's not just, like I say, the fact you're seeing it, it's the fact that someone took the time to make a love letter to the fans that we haven't really seen since Enterprise's Into Tomorrow Darkly. Which also resonated feelings back in 2004, I remember. So, like, it took two creators 20 years apart to do something fully for the fans.
Yeah.
Don't take another 20 years, guys. Jesus Christ. Like, we want to see this stuff. This stuff is iconic for hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. Like, a lot of people are like, I want to see the Galaxy X, and I want to see the Galaxy X bridge, the movie bridge. And I'm like, you're not going to see that. They're going to take you to the place that was home for 7 years as this wrap up. And, so a lot of people were like stoked to see the Galaxy X and all that. And it's like, no, it's not happening. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I was also wondering, are we going to see the Galaxy movie bridge? Because they could have, last configuration. But of course, if this is Geordie's passion project, he's not going to recreate the bridge he spent 6 months on versus 8 years. He has no special, and he didn't even spend time on it. He was in the engineering. He doesn't care about that version of the bridge. It's a museum, literally. That's why I said another video about if we had seen the saucer, are they going to leave it damaged? Because some people in the comments said, well, of course they'll leave it trash because that's how it was as a museum. And I said, well, no, because if someone's going to the museum, you don't want to see it rubble. You want to see it as it was. Therefore, if you're restoring it, it's no longer accurate to how it was. Like if the bridge is entirely rebuilt. It's not the same bridge, but it's now how everyone wants to see it. So it's like, well, truth versus beauty,
Yeah. There's two schools of thought on that about the museum piece, like leaving it trashed and also restoring it. But I love that it's like a kind of an unofficial side project of Geordie's because he's the head, the curator of the museum. So he has the room to do that. So yeah, I thought that was great. And they mentioned where the parts came from, the other ships, which was nice.
Yep, offhand reference. But boy, the scale wise, like that thing takes up the entire middle dome. That's all that fits in there, right? That's definitely a passion project. You imagine someone had to prove that. Just like you're literally taking up 1/3 of the space of the station. Yes. But no, I can't wait to see it in motion. It was a good sort of faithful look. Knew it. Like I saw the visual clues of it being a new lighting rig, but that's just because I know all the different versions, so it was fun to see.
Yeah, even I noticed that. So,
but for the most part, faithful, and of course they didn't, light the bridge like the Titan. They could have.
They did for a minute when they walked on. It's like, okay,
like the Titan. Yep. If you're doing it, do it right. Like you said, the carpet. It's like, yeah, there's a reason all this stuff exists, and certainly I didn't quite know how to feel, seeing Brent as Data-ish in his chair doing a turn, and Terry directed it, so I'm sure he got behind the camera and, got to see, or even held the camera himself, because you can do that as director, if you want to, actually, like, I'm filming Brent in an angle, which, do you realize how many hundreds of thousands or millions took to make this angle? Never gonna happen again. Like, because the digital bridge green screen, fine, but, like, really doing it. And like seeing how Riker, Jonathan Frakes, sat down and swiveled the console. I bet he didn't even think about it. I bet he just did it on entire muscle memory. Is the vibe I got. Kind of felt a little bit sad for Crusher that she has now no functional part of the story bridge-wise because she hasn't got a station on the bridge.
Well, to be fair, she got her shake on the Enterprise D bridge in Prodigy, so...
yeah, for sure. There you go. The only character to be twice in 2 years. But I hope they all get something to do because, they've all got a station except Beverly. And she's not going to be going back there and looking at engineering monitors, really. Like, it's not her forte.
Well, she's going to play an important part, though, with the medical aspect of this Borg infection, essentially.
Like, we'll do predictions, obviously, but I'm sure they'll be on board the cube and we'll get a little strike team. And if they want to go full fun, they could always, take TNG phases because it's all they have in stock, I mean, there's going to be all that stuff still from the even though it crashed on Viridian, there's still going to be a laying around phases that didn't go anywhere that fell down and they could have picked back up again. And also, small note, what a fun thing for both the Forge daughters to get assimilated. Like bucket list, good old actual LaForge daughter getting actually assimilated mostly. Boy, if Seven had gone with the team, she could nick Voyager. 2 bridges, if only.
A lot of people thought that too was going to happen. Orsk was going to take the Defiant, and I mean, that would be cool. But I hate that Jory said this is the only ship not connected, the only functional ship. So the other ones are all non-functional.
yeah, that was super like, just so you guys are gonna ask, why didn't they take every ship in the Armada, which they could, which we did think they might thematically, but again that pulls focus away. But of course, why would you keep, as I said before, why would you keep a cloaking device active on a bird of prey? You really would. It'd probably be in the museum. Why would you keep loaded torpedoes inside any of those ships? Because any terrorist can steal any one. They can still blow up a building, right? They don't become less powerful over time. They just become less relatively powerful to new stuff. So I don't know what Geordie was thinking, keeping fully equipped torpedo. I don't know. He said drones were loaded. Okay, he does say that, but like keeping phaser emitters working. You know, what a lad to keep it fully functional just in case. I always get the sense he wanted to take it out for a spin someday. Like
he said he was going to saving it for a surprise. So,
but you kind of get the sense he's like going to offer them like a joyride and just go on a little. We'll go on a little jaunt. Oh no, the Borg! Oh no, I guess we have to fight them. Lucky I packed quantums and photons and phasers and tricobalts. It's like, I want to be prepared.
We both really love this episode, and we want to hear from you guys. Comment down below what you thought about this episode. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to click the notification bell icon so you don't miss any lives where we talk about this. And yeah, be sure to join us in any way you can, because there are multiple ways.
Like the live, Stuart, about this episode, the one that's tonight. It's going to be super long, super great. So join for that. Show your support, show your thoughts, show your comments. We love hearing what you guys think. And if we're live, you can curveball us with a conversation by super chatting anything you want for any amount, and we'll go on a tirade about, oh my god, this colour, oh my god, that beauty, you know, that's us. Or Sports Monthly via Patreon, or join the channel on YouTube. Both great ways. Both get you in the ship fleet as well. Or buying merch down below. Look for the links. Or Patreon. No, PayPal, Stuart, PayPal. Or PayPal at trekyards@hotmail.com. All helps the show a lot, and lets us make shows both during the busy season, during the shows, and during the off seasons, because we need your support in those just as much. So thanks in advance, and watch our reviews this week. All the stuff.
There'll be plenty, yeah.
Yep.
All right, guys. Until next time, he is Commander Cockings.
He's got a Foley.
See you guys later.
Bye, guys.